A police department still mourning the loss of one of its own as assault on cops climb. Troubling times for the NYPD. The Point starts right now. Edward Caban is the son of a cop who joined the NYPD in 1991 as a patrol officer in the South Bronx. He's now the commissioner, the first Hispanic to hold the post. Commissioner, this is a department that is still in mourning over the loss of Officer, now Detective Jonathan Diller. I know that it must really pain you to be the police officer to lose one of your own, but also during the funeral, his widow talked about the need to get control of crime and to protect police officers. What's the police department doing to protect police officers?
So thank you very much for having me here, Marcia. It's an honor for me to be here. So as part of our job as officers, we engage with violent criminals every day. So last year we had over 56,000 felony arrests in New York City. That means every day we're going in harm's way to get these criminals off our streets.
But the thing that I find troublesome is the fact that assaults against police officers have increased 20% last year, and so far this year it's up 15%. What's going on? Why is it so suddenly so acceptable to go after the people who are here to protect us?
You know, it's a dangerous job, Marcia, and the murder of Detective Jonathan Diller is a harsh reminder of that. In that instance, we had two career criminals carrying illegal firearms, didn't think twice about pulling out that firearm and killing a New York City police officer. And yes, they'll face murder charges, but you have a family that doesn't have a son. You have a wife that doesn't have a husband. You have a little boy that's going to grow up without a father. It's a disturbing trend on violence against our officers that we're seeing. You know, last year, like you mentioned, we were up in assaults against police officers 20%. This year, we're up 15%. And we're always going to try to protect our officers. But we ask them to go toward the danger when others run away. We ask them to get our violent criminals off our street so other New Yorkers don't have to do that. And they're going to continue to do that to make sure every New Yorker is safe. And I commend them for that.
What do you think is contributing to the feeling that it's okay to attack a police officer?
So, like I said, we had 56,000 felony arrests last year in New York City.
So people resent that?
No, so we have 56,000 felony arrests in New York City, up in felony arrests in all 5 boroughs, up in housing 17% felony arrests, up in transit 60% in felony arrests. We are seeing a revolving door. Call it catch and release, call it whatever you want to call it, but it's a pattern that we're seeing throughout New York City, and it's not good for law enforcement. It doesn't bode well for law-abiding citizens, and it doesn't bode well for New York City.
What we're really talking about here is recidivism. Sometimes when you go to the crime stat press conferences that you do every month, you hear repeatedly that a small group of people are responsible for a large number of crimes. Why is that happening? Are the judges just not sentencing people? And does there have to be change in Albany to change the sentencing laws?
So we like to say there's a lot of tentacles in the public safety ecosystem, and we all have to do our part. Not only the police department, the DAs, the judges, everyone is a stakeholder in this.
So do you think that the DAs are not asking for tougher penalties, the judges aren't setting tougher penalties, and that the legislature has to agree to set tougher penalties?
I know what we're seeing, Marcia. We're seeing that we're locking the same people up over and over again.
And that's not acceptable.
Unacceptable.
So I mean, does that basically contributes to the feeling that people have the perception that they're not safe? And you and I have talked about that, safety versus the perception of safety. Is that what's going on? Because you see these people over and over and over again, it's making people feel less safe?
So we talked about that, perception versus reality. We talk about that on our social media platforms. Our department has a right to inform New Yorkers about crime in their city and what we're seeing. We have to hold people accountable for everything they do.
So When you say your department has the right to inform the public, do you think that there's a media bias against the police officers, or do you think that your story isn't getting out and that it's important for you to use social media so that the public knows what's really going on?
Despite what some people see on some news agencies, or despite what some people see on media, print, we're still the safest big city in the nation. You know, violent crime is down, murders are down, shootings are down, arrests are up. And my officers, I give them all the credit in the world for the work that they're doing out there every single day.
Let's talk about subway safety. You and I actually recently rode the subways, and I know that there were some people who said they like what's going on, they like to see the extra cops. Some people said they don't feel safe. When you heard those stories, how did it make you feel, and did it change the way you've decided to deploy police officers in the subway?
You know, so obviously transit has been one of our focuses since this administration began. And New Yorkers deserve a safe subway system. We have over 4 million rides a day, 20 million riders a week. It's an enormous system. So we have to make sure that not only they are safe, that they feel safe too.
But see, I guess I wonder, like, when a police officer goes out and is assigned to these special patrols in the subway, what orders are they being given in terms of, I mean, they're going to see the mentally ill, they're going to see the homeless. Are they being told certain ways to treat them, to allow the civilian groups that are there to treat them to do it themselves, or what is a police officer supposed to do?
You know, we work hand in hand with City Hall and other agencies like the Department of Mental Health, Department of Homeless Services, to first provide them with services first and foremost. That's our job. And instead, in our training system, we have to make sure everyone is safe, and that's part of it.
But you know, sometimes when you talk to somebody and you say, do you feel safe in the subway? They say, well, we'd like to see more cops. Or whenever we see them, they're standing clustered around the trains, or they're clustered reading their iPhones or their cell phones, or they're talking to people, or they're drinking coffee. Do you think that's a fair charge, or do you think that just people are acting out of seeing just one thing happening at a time?
You know, I know my officers work hard in our transit system. You know, we think back, end of last year, we were down in overall transit crime. This year, we saw an uptick in transit crime, almost 40%. So we marshaled all our resources. We put people where they belong, at the turnstiles, on the subway trains, at the platforms. And all the work we did paid dividends. In February, crime was down in our transit system 18%. In March, it was down 23.5% to bring overall transit crime down for the first quarter. It happened quick. It didn't happen by accident. It happened because of the hard work of the men and women of the NYPD.
But the question is, sometimes people still don't feel safe because if something happens, you suddenly see it on social media. Is that complicating your job?
Absolutely. Like I said, you know, perception versus reality. I can tell you all day long, Marcia, that we're the safest big city in America, and we are. We go over the stats, down in all of our crime categories. Murder down 25%, shootings down 25%. But a person who's been a victim of a crime, that's their reality. And we'll never take that away from them. But when we rode that train system that day, we talked to people. You know, 99.9% of people have never been a victim of a crime in our subway system. And we asked them that question, so why do you feel unsafe? And they say it's because what they see in the newspapers and what they see on social media.
So social media is complicating your job?
Absolutely.
So speaking of the subways, the mayor has decided that he wants to install weapons detection systems in some of the subway systems. Good idea, bad idea? Will it make a difference?
So for 180 years, the New York City Police Department has been at the forefront of cutting technology, and that's crucial to our public safety. So this new technology will only enhance the good work that the men and women have been doing since the administration began, where they've taken 15,000 illegal firearms off our streets. So I think it will not only make people safer, it will make them feel safer too.
So one last question. You have a situation where now the legislature is going to allow you to charge stronger crimes for shoplifting. Will that help reduce shoplifting?
I think it will, absolutely. So we've identified over 572 people who've been arrested over and over again for 7,600 shoplifting crimes in New York City.
My mouth is hanging open. So now you want to be able to get that they should get stiffer penalties.
Absolutely. You know, people shouldn't be victims of crime over and over again in New York City. It's not fair to them.
Okay, Commissioner, we're going to have to leave it there right now, but our conversation continues right after our show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. We're back with a bonus conversation you'll only see here on CBS News New York. So, Commissioner, you've been in the police department since 1991. What was your favorite assignment?
So growing up in the Bronx, Marcia, people know that I'm a huge Yankee fan.
I knew you were going to say that.
So from the period from 1996 to 2001, I was lieutenant assigned to the Bronx, working all those World Series, playoffs games. It was the most amazing time in my career. The atmosphere was incredible.
As a member of the NYPD, you've seen a lot of nooks and crannies in New York City. Are there any hidden gems, any favorite places that you have that probably not everybody knows about?
You know, I've got to travel all over the city, go many different places and experience many different cultures of food, and I like them all, Marcia.
You like them all?
All.
Not a single favorite?
I'm a foodie.
Okay. So then what's the best place to grab a meal on the go?
There's so many different places, you know, to narrow down one, it's hard.
Oh, you're just afraid people are going to say you're picking the wrong one. So I know you take pride in public service, but it's a tough job. And I wonder, what kind of a pitch would you make to someone to convince them to go into public service?
You know, so in every neighborhood I've been to, in every community, when I talk to people all around the city, you know what they tell me? They tell me that I'm not looking for a brilliant mind that speaks. They're looking for a compassionate heart that listens, someone who understands their issues and concerns, someone who's willing to help them with their issues and concerns. And that's the department that I want to be a part of. That's the department that I want to lead. And I encourage anyone who's willing to help New Yorkers, come join us.
And it's all about compassion.
Yes.
So I guess I'm going to guess that being the commissioner is like the best job you've ever had. But what was the worst job?
Well, being commissioner is the best job for me. I think the best job is the mayor of the city of New York. But the worst job I probably had was working at Pathmark when I was a young child, and I had to use that little stamper to stamp every single item with a price tag on it.
You had to price every single item?
Every single one.
Oh my God.
And the stores were filled with little cans to stack.
Lots of cans. I can guess what that would be a bad job. So, as a commissioner, you have to wear suits. Do you like wearing suits?
I love wearing suits. I think I dress nicely.
Yes, you do. Do you play any sports?
I used to play baseball when I was younger.
Do you have a nickname?
Eddie.
Eddie? How did you earn that? Because your name is Edward.
No, it's Edward, so yes, Eddie.
So if you weren't a police officer, what would you be?
I think somewhere in social work. Like I said, I love to help people. I love to make sure people have a great day. I love to put a smile on people's faces. Somewhere where you can do that for people every day.
And you've been able to do that since you've been a police officer since 1991, which is a long time.
Yes, it is.
Commissioner Edward Caban, thank you so much for being here. And thank you at home for joining us as well.